Welcome to Light It Up, a podcast about resilient women balancing motherhood, their careers, personal lives, and all of the challenges that come along with being a superwoman. Each week, you'll be motivated to take action to lead, inspire, transform, and empower. Now, here's your host, Dr. Aginah Musherah. Hi, everyone. I am your host, Dr. Aginah Musherah, and I want to thank you for tuning in to another episode of Light It Up. Today, I have a very special guest, someone I've known for, I don't know how many years, all of my life, I think. But I have Mrs. Tasha Henderson, who is joining us today. Tasha is an early college and STEM program manager for Chicago Public Schools. Today, we are going to talk about women in science, technology, engineering, and math. So I want to welcome Tasha Henderson to Light It Up. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you. I am so excited, Aginah, Dr. Muhammad. Yes, all your life. Yep.
Yes, so I guess I should tell everybody, full transparency, we grew up next door neighbors, and our mothers actually worked together, and your older sister used to babysit me. So actually we're more like sister neighbors.
Yep.
But I want to talk to you today about your experience, your background in the STEM field. Particularly the importance of young Black women and young Black men getting involved in that particular area. You have just an extensive background, so I share this with everybody. I don't want to mess it up at all, but you have a BS degree in mathematics and physics from Elmhurst University. You also have a master's degree in education with a concentration in math. And then you took it a step further and you got a second master's degree in educational administration. And now you are currently enrolled in a doctoral program. So you're pursuing your PhD in educational technology. So it's safe to say that you love education.
Yes.
And you love math,
Yes.
but you didn't always work in the field of education. If I recall correctly, I know you had a background working for the stock market, right, or stock exchange.
Yes.
So if we could maybe start with, how did you really get into this field? Did you always know that you wanted to go into the STEM field? Is it something that someone encouraged you to go into? So kind of walk us through that.
Okay. So pretty much as a young girl, I always have been intrigued with the sciences. So I remember even with my buddy, Dr. Muhammad's brother, we would play in the backyard and catch garter snakes. And we would just be in the backyard all the time. So I really just was intrigued from a young child in the sciences. As I progressed and went through elementary, in high school, my strength was in those areas. So anything with math, science, technology, as I progressed through and went to college. So I've had actually, as you said, I spent several years working as a computer database analyst for one of the largest exchanges of the city of Chicago. I worked there for several years. That was my first career in that area, and I really enjoyed it, really prospered in it, very lucrative. And so by that and working in corporate America, I decided and really felt a pull and a nudge for me to share my gift in that area with our younger generation and just the passion for that.
So you decided that you wanted to go into education. Was there anyone, and I guess I should also say for the audience, we grew up, when people think about Chicago, you know, folks who are not from here have their own perception of Chicago, right? But we grew up in Inglewood.
Yes.
And so, if you don't know about Inglewood, then Google it, I guess is what I should say. But and was there anyone when you were in high school that made an impact on you? Whereas you decided, even though you always had a passion for the field, but was there anyone who gave you like that extra push and suggested that you major in the STEM
That's a
field?
great question. Um, so I guess it was a combination of several people, uh, particularly when I got to high school, and it was the high school was 90% not minority, so minority was like 10%. Um, my high school science teachers, which they were Caucasian, but they really looked at me as if not by the color or anything like that, but by my potential.
Mm-hmm.
And my physics teacher in particular, shout out to Miss Larson, I don't know if she's still, but she did not let me settle for, well, I don't understand how to do this problem. And she's like, okay, well, then you need to figure it out. So having those high expectations by some of my high school, when they were both women in science, and they were very strong in science. So the other one, science teacher, was from physical science my freshman year. And just seeing the powerhouses they were in science really intrigued me.
So is that when you thought about transitioning from, the computer, being a computer database administrator, and then transitioning to education, did you, and I know you wanted to make an impact on the lives of students, would you say that maybe the experience that you had with teachers who believed in you and pushed and encouraged you is one of the reasons why you decided to go into the field of education?
Yeah, I would definitely, yep, I would definitely say so. Coming, as you said, us growing up in Inglewood, that just the environment that we grew up in, it was very challenging a lot of times. But coming from that background, I knew that there were other students definitely that needed someone in their educational journey, as I had, that was there to look at them, no matter their demographics or where they come from, that they can do it, and that held them to that high expectation.
Now, how long have you worked in the field of education?
This is my 16th year.
Oh, wow. Okay. And all for Chicago Public Schools, correct?
For the first 4 years, I worked in a private school and in the suburban school. But for the last 12 years, yes, in Chicago Public School.
And right now you have a new role. I mentioned that you're the early college and STEM program manager. So what exactly does that role consist of? What do you do? How do you make an impact on the lives of students in this role?
It is a dream job. I love it. So I don't look at it, actually, I don't look at it as a job. I look at it as an extension of who I am. In this role, I get to have hands-on just experience with guiding my students in the ways of accessibility for college dual enrollment, dual credit, and things of that sort. I taught computer science and some technology courses. So those are the things that I would encourage my students to make sure that they would enroll and look for opportunities in work-based learning and provide those things for them job shadowing. So now in this role, I get to plan out pathways and actually use the funding, different grants and things of that sort to open up opportunities to expose them to. Right now, I'm really heavy into establishing partnerships with different universities, partnerships for after-school clubs based in STEM, and the students are pretty much, they're ready. I mean, any student, it's what you expose them to. It's the opportunities that you allow them. So in this position, I'm able to do all of those things and even more.
So outside of, I mean, that's, first of all, it's great that you are in your dream job, because not many of us can say that, right? You know, sometimes
it took a long time.
Yeah, we go to school and think we want to go into one field, or we've been working in the field, and sometimes we become stuck. So I'm really happy that you're able to do something that you're passionate about. What for students who, I guess, don't really know much about the STEM field, or what they can do. I mean, we definitely hear about girls in science, technology, you know, engineering, mathematics. I know when I was coming up, for a little bit, I thought I wanted to go. I think it was just the exposure for me, because I went through the Women in Science and Engineering program.
Yes.
But I didn't continue.
I was in that program.
Yeah. So it worked out for you. Didn't work out for me.
Everybody had them.
Yeah. So what would you say, do you think it's important to, even if you decide not to go into that field or study that in school, how important is it to still have just some exposure to the field?
Yes. That's something that I really encourage, even professionals now, like millennials or Z generation. I even encourage them, if you have some sort of technology access or background, you know, it can be real estate, but know something about technology, know how to use different devices, not just the laptop, but you know how to use different things that's going to enhance what you already do. And it does not have to be that you're going to be an engineer or that you're going to be a software developer, but whatever field that you're in, because in this 21st century, and to be globally ready and prepared, college and career readiness, I would definitely encourage to make sure that there's some type of community college class that you can take, or something to learn some, you know, Microsoft suites or Google suites, that you have some exposure added to your, you know.
I'm so glad that you said that.
Your portfolio.
Yeah, I'm glad that you said that, especially considering right now, you know, we're all, our students, well, here in many districts in the state of Illinois, and then across the country, are doing e-learning. And I hear so many, as a matter of fact, I just read a few posts from parents who are so beyond frustrated. Some teachers, of course, who are frustrated as well, because when you go through a teacher preparation program, you were prepared in the traditional sense of teaching, meaning in person, chalkboard, you know, the technology component was not integrated into the teacher preparation program. So the last 6 months of our lives, if you're not, you know, technologically savvy, it's a huge learning curve. So I think that, you know, being in the midst of this pandemic, it's certainly, you know, we do know that there's the digital divide. So we already know that. And, I think a lot of us kind of fear that it's going to widen, particularly for our population, for our group, for African Americans, for Blacks. In fact, my son, he's in the Project Lead the Way program at his high school.
Yes, excellent.
And right now, he's taking an AP digital electronics course. And he has asked me, so this is his 3rd year in Project Lead the Way, and he's asked on 3 different occasions if he can drop the course. And I told him he could not, because he's doing well in the course. So it's already a difficult course. So even the teacher said it's a difficult course.
Yes.
But to take this course remotely, that's a challenge as well. And so he's doing well. And I'm like, why do you want to drop the course? And he said, because I'm never going to use this. So I guess he's already made up in his mind that he doesn't want to go into engineering. However, so I'm going to ask you, let me use this platform. What can I do to encourage him? Because I did tell him that he had to at least complete the semester, that he could not drop the course before the semester was over. And then he would need to pick up another elective, because this is actually considered to be an elective. But what would you recommend that I do? What can I expose him to kind of get him to understand that actually he will likely use digital electronics in some way, shape, or form. Maybe he just doesn't see it now.
Exactly. Well, it's funny that you asked that, because being a parent of 3, myself, young adults, so my oldest actually was in that same type of situation. I wasn't Project Lead the Way, but we came to a crossroads where he was, in high school. And he's like, well, he really didn't know exactly what he wanted to do, but he knew that some of the class he was taking, which was in engineering type thing, like, oh, why do I have to take this? Why do I need this? So I actually had a sit down with him. I got the laptop out and we went through the website on occupations. I forget the name of the website, but it's United States occupation. So I took him through different professions, and we looked at the professions that had a technology component, and we looked at colleges for it. We looked at probable salaries coming out, and I kind of set it before him and showed him. And then we also went through some YouTube videos, and he ended up majoring in management information systems and graduated with his degree in it. And that is something that I encouraged him and told him that it will set you apart. You may not like it because he was going towards the business. I said, but make sure you include some component of technology, because it will set you apart. You do not have to fully go into, being a software person or things of that sort. But I think by showing him that, let's look at the occupations. Okay, let's look at, years from now where this could lead you. Or so I think you have to show students, and that's what I do as well with my students. Even lawyers. I have some students who want to be lawyer and they want to major in law. And one of my students, she's a top student. She finished some honor courses, and she just asked me a few weeks ago. She's like, Ms. Henderson, why did I have to take your computer science course and I want to practice law? I said, well, you know what? You will need some sort of technology and practicing law. When you decide what field you want to go into in law, what practice, what do you want to go, what area, real estate or copyright, whatever. By you having some exposure to my computer science class, and doing some type of, we built websites that was part of web development. I said, you can go and for your own practice, or while you're in law school, one of your projects, you can develop your own website and that sets you apart from other law students.
Right. Yeah.
And she said, I guess you're right. Okay. She said, okay, she said, okay, I can accept that. I said, so see, it's not that you have to go directly, but I think we have to show our young people what are the benefits. How is this going to help them? You know, like your baby said, you know, why am I going to use this? But showing them, I think is key.
That's great advice. What other advice can you give parents, you know, in terms of the importance of exposing their children to the STEM field, or how do you even get started? Like, what's the route that we should take?
Well, I would encourage, see what type of after school programs your school offers when it relates to STEM. Within any of the fields. It does not have to encompass all of the fields. It can be a after school program that robotics. I was a girls robotics coach for middle school for several years. So after school programs, they have so many things. Girls Who Code, they have robotics programs for, you know, boys and girls. Any type of exposure they can have to it. A summer program, summer camp program. Chicago has like a wealth of different things, even through Chicago Public School and the South Suburbs, Western Suburbs, and Northern Suburbs. They have plenty of things to expose them to. And I would encourage parents to make sure that you try to expose them as early as possible. I taught engineering courses for a magnet school from kindergarten. I was the kindergarten teacher all the way up through 8th grade, and Dr. Muhammad knows that. She had her children in one of the programs for several summers. So as early as possible, which is what you've been doing for years, you know, with your beautiful kids. So being that parent to encourage them, although they will complain, but everything they complain about doesn't mean it's not good for them, you know.
Yeah, that's exactly the truth. But sometimes it can like wear you down too.
It does. It definitely, believe me, I know.
Now let me ask you, because I just remember there being this shift, and you know, I probably didn't pay attention. I was probably too young to really think about it or pay attention to it. But there was a shift where there was such a push to have girls involved in STEM, right? You know, so when when we were coming up, the programs like Women in Science, and engineering, for example. Do you think that it's still important to, I guess, to push girls into the field, or do you think at this stage that has the playing field kind of, have we caught up? Has it maybe leveled out? And then are we now forgetting about boys? Because I do hear those questions from, you know, from people, from other parents sometimes about, you know, everything now is about girls in STEM, but so where are we with that?
It's funny that you bring that up, because I was just talking to my husband yesterday about our males being exposed to different areas of STEM, and how I feel that I'm getting pulled in that direction. Because we got to have programs for both. And that's why I'm such an advocate of robotics programs. First Lego League is definitely a great program because it encompasses, it's co-ed, so it encompasses both. So when it comes to where are we now, I think we definitely can do better, do more on the co-ed end. You know, like you said, we have different programs for the girls, and many times high school is really a place, you know, many high schools, a place where They have various programs, you know, it can even be, I was a part in college, the National Society of Black Engineers, and they have a chapter, a junior chapter at different high schools now that's implemented. They have hackathons as well that's there. But that's one of the things that's on my list to push, and actually part of my research coming up in my PhD program is gearing towards our especially our males of color.
Mm-hmm. Because it does seem like they've become either lost in the shuffle or just forgotten about because the focus shifted. So I agree with you, finding that balance or making sure that there's a balance where you're still exposing both boys and girls to the field,
Exactly.
especially for our children of color, because I mean, we need that exposure, and just looking at how they're so involved and intrigued with the video games. I mean, because I look at that as that's a form of technology, and I know that's one of the ways that I try to encourage my son's interest in terms of engineering, because I'm like, well, you can develop your own video game, you know.
Yes.
If you want to go into gaming, that's fine. Do something that you like, but just think about the creativity and the skill set that you'll also need to do that. Do you think, in terms of 4-year degree versus doing some of the certification programs, like where are we with that? What direction are we going in? Because none of us really knows what's going to happen with the higher ed system. But in terms of, you know, any type of certification that you can maybe go to a 2-year community college.
Exactly.
What do those options look like? Because everybody is not necessarily cut out to attend a 4-year institution or major in engineering, but can still do something lucrative in the STEM related field.
Exactly. I am such an advocate of community college certifications, dual enrollment, dual credit, which is a huge push within Chicago Public Schools, with the programs that we have for leading in that area. Right now, let's see, Kennedy King, many of the community colleges have tuition that's being paid for the freshman year. As students come in, they have 2 different programs now the city has. One is for those students who are on a track who has like a B average, and then the other ones are on a track for those who do not. And they're now offering programs where their tuition would be paid on a 2-year, yes. So that's why I'm just with this early college and STEM program, that early college piece is so crucial because it allows high school students to start earning credits up to 18 credit hours in high school while they're yet saving money, definitely financially, for if they plan to go to a 4-year college, or if they do not, if they even plan to go into the military, just having certifications and having college credit still puts you ahead, period. So that push right now, and not just for students that's in high school, it can be for our adult learners who's returning back to school. The community college is such a gem in the community, especially in the urban education in our community, in our neighborhoods. We have to make sure that we're supporting, because that funnels into, as you know, Dr. Muhammad, funnels into your 4-year universities. Right. So we have to make sure that we are putting the information out there for people to know within the community that they can earn a certificate, they can earn, even in the technology field. I encourage many young adults to pursue that, because you can get A+ certification and get a well-paying job by knowing your computer hardware, computer software, and many times companies will pay for it, or many times companies will even sponsor you to go back to school to get further. So those certifications, as you said, in community college are huge because they're really being pushed in high school, and they're being supported financially to help parents with scholarships and help students save money.
Yeah, the financial piece is definitely something to think about, especially when you have multiple children.
Exactly.
And you have your own student loans that you have to worry about that you're still
Yes.
paying back. But I'm not really sure how much we really, I guess, not necessarily that we don't necessarily do a good job of promoting going the community college route. Interesting conversation when we were picking up books and laptops, from before the start of the school year. My daughter, who's a junior, asked about community college, and she said, well, why would anybody go to a community college? Is it because they couldn't get into a 4-year institution? I was like, wow, do people still think
And
that
that's
way?
how, yeah, when we were younger, that's how it was looked at.
Right, exactly. But now, so many people are looking at it as a way to save money, because really your first 2 years of higher ed, that's general ed courses.
General ed courses.
So basically you're paying, and not that, I love my job working in higher ed. So
right.
I got to be careful with that, but still, it is more cost effective. Especially, I would encourage people to make sure you do your research, to make sure that courses that you are going to take, like, you need to have a plan. So you need to have a plan already mapped out for where you will go to complete your undergraduate degree, to make sure that whatever community college that you select, that those courses that you're taking are transferable, because of course you don't want to, get yourself,
you'll be there longer than you need to.
Exactly. Now, I know you work with students every day, and that can be considered a form of mentoring. But do you do any other mentoring outside of, your professional realm?
I used to mentor a lot within the middle school. Now I find myself mentoring a lot of college and early professionals. Um, it's amazing because you see, even for college students, many times they don't know. You can get lost in these big universities and not knowing, okay, what course or even what major or what courses line up with that major, and those things. So I find myself mentoring a lot of young professionals and college students, and many of them have went into STEM fields.
Now, how do they find you, or do you find them? How does that typically work?
It's usually by referrals. It's mostly by referrals. Like, can you please, help my student in planning what they, exposing them to, as we just talked about, why it's important for them to take some sort of technology courses. Also encouraging them that they can do it, even on the emotional level. And as you said, with all this remote learning going on and things, this has kind of turned things upside down, and but we'll get through it.
Now, do you have a mentor?
Very good. I do have a mentor. Definitely, she's actually going through a PhD program, same as I am, but she's a district lead for curriculum. But she challenges me in many areas of, okay, so what's next? Okay, so you accomplished that. Okay, so, what's next? What's next? So those things, and everyone, I believe, needs a mentor
Yeah.
or someone to push them.
How did you, and I'm just curious, I like to ask people this because my experience with, particularly when I worked at Chicago Public Schools, I couldn't find a mentor, which was actually the premise of my dissertation topic. So how
Mm.
did you go about making the connection to select the person as your mentor? Did you
Mentor.
ask her, or was it just the relationship just kind of evolved naturally?
Um, the relationship kind of evolved naturally. We found ourselves at the same type of events, professional events, the same uh, goals as we talked and things of that sort. And she pretty much just went a totally different route and really moved up in the area that she wanted to move up in. And where I was at, um, I had wanted to make some movements as well up. And so it was just kind of organic. We pretty much just kind of meshed together. And so,
Yeah, and those are typically the ones that last the longest and are the most beneficial, I think. And because sometimes when you try like the match mentorship program,
yeah,
it doesn't necessarily work. And I was actually I was listening to Michelle Obama's podcast because in my mind,
yes,
Michelle Obama is actually my best friend.
yeah,
So I was listening to her podcast, and there's the episode is called Women Working. That's an episode that she did with Valerie Jarrett, and she was talking
yes.
about mentorship. And then the follow up was it's something generations, but she had her three mentees on the podcast. That might have been today's
Oh,
episode. I don't know. I've been last 2 days I've been listening to, but
wow.
um, and she just talked about how they connected and how they were able to support one another. And what was really interesting is that while she was looking at Valerie Jarrett as her mentor, there were things that Valerie, said that she learned from, Michelle, or,
Mm,
what have you. So I do view like mentorship as reciprocal, even though you
yes,
may be in the mentee role. There are ways in which you can definitely impact the mentor as well, and the mentor can learn from you. And I think that that's also important in our community as well. I mean, there are a number of mentoring programs that are
yeah,
available, but sometimes just having those organic,
yeah,
one-on-one relationships with people where you may not even necessarily know that you're being mentored, right? There's something that somebody can
Ex-
say that a spark. Um,
exactly,
and I,
exactly. And I think you surrounding yourself, because I would say one of my best friends since college, she's also um, a mentor to me, in the way professionally, because I believe you have to surround yourself with people who are um, not doing exactly what you're doing and where you're at, but those that you see within your inner circle that are definitely doing something way beyond what you ever thought or imagined you could ever do.
mhm.
And I have found that it's just crazy. It's the again organic relationship that I have with her, and she's overseas serving, and um, something that she always dreamed of doing. And I'm like, oh my goodness, you gonna do that next? Are you serious? You have enough, it's like that courage to, but then of course, like you said, it comes on you like, okay, now what are you gonna do?
Mhm.
Okay, so what is your next step?
Yeah.
So she's fearless in this. So are you gonna be fearless in what you're trying to do? So yeah, I love it.
So speaking of, because that's a perfect segue, since you're in your doctoral program, which you just started this semester, right?
This is my second year.
This is your second year. How did I miss an entire year?
This is my second year now. I know. You
Oh,
know, you've been there for me every step of the way, encouraged.
why did I?
Yes.
Maybe it was just something that we were talking about with classes that just made me think.
Because I always was telling you different things like, oh, Gina, what should I mean, you know, anyway. Yeah.
So what's next with once you're, I mean, I know I'm probably putting the cart before the horse. Is that the way you say it? But
Mhm.
what are your plans when you get this PhD, when you're done with the PhD?
Uh-huh.
Like what's going to be
Hmm.
next
Wow.
for Mrs. Henderson?
Yes. So when I'm finished with the PhD program, I'm a real advocate, and you know, as a researcher too, that research drives change. And so, based upon my research and my passion, which I explain, is towards that filling in that digital divide within our urban community in our urban school system. So, whatever way that I can be used to aid in filling in that gap for our young Black, Latino
Mhm.
boys, girls, and I'm really been focusing on our boys and our young men. My passion is for building up our families through our men being able to lead in technology.
Mm.
And that's something that's definitely lacking. Um, and it's lacking because I believe that the exposure and exposing them to what they need in order to succeed in technology in STEM has not been provided enough to them, because we created this, I mean, we built this country,
Mhm.
and our ancestors came here as doctors, as lawyers. They came here as chiefs of tribes. So just getting back to that.
Mhm.
And I believe in strengthening the males of our family is our way to get us back to where our ancestors, how we were.
That's excellent. I mean, definitely um it's the direction that we need to be going in as a people
Yep.
because you know, and although we're both women, we could easily say like, you know, we were pushed, and you come from a family of all girls. So
Mm-hmm.
it's four of you, right? Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
So four girls, but like, you know, for me, I have brothers, but you know, just thinking, even when you think about like how boys and girls are raised, right? They talk
Mm-hmm.
about
Yep.
how mothers raise their daughters. I forgot what we supposedly
Yeah.
or something.
They raise their daughters, but maybe their sons,
Yeah, something like
or
that.
something like that. Yeah.
But it's still, even when you think about just trying to make sure that young girls are exposed to certain fields, you know, thinking about the STEM
Mm-hmm.
field or what have you, it's still important to get back to where we once were, where our young boys can be pushed and encouraged to develop into
Exactly.
productive men who are in leadership roles, because right now it's the tables have turned essentially. um I know I talk about it a lot, being a divorced mother. I don't necessarily want to be the person who makes all of the decisions all of the time. I mean, even when you
Right.
think about just how we're structured with roles, I don't care what, you know, people say. I
Exactly.
come from the traditional thinking
Yep.
in terms of how things should be, and when
Yep. Me
you,
too.
yeah, when you lose that, or when that's not being encouraged or nurtured, then it's a wonder why you have like a generation, you know, that's lost, or why your
Yep.
communities, in our communities, I shouldn't say your, but our communities
Yep.
are the way it is. I mean, this isn't something that happened overnight.
Exactly.
So we definitely have to work collectively to help our young boys understand what their role is, their importance, you know,
Exactly.
and the contribution that they, you know, can make and should be making.
Exactly. That's why it's such a privilege to be an educator in the public school system. Um, with my with my students, especially, my male students, I'm just always encouraging them. I was some of my students, which were some of them was, had struggles. They had struggles with paying attention in school, and they spent a lot of time in the neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
uh, however, when they came to class and when they came in my doors, always making sure I see you, I care about you. What's your plan? How am I going to help you with this plan? How are we going to get, you don't understand how to create this web page? Okay, let's sit down. Let's look at what do you want to design it in? And it's funny that you talked about gaming, because gaming is huge now. It's
Mm-hmm.
not just the video games, but it's you know, uh, gaming as far as designing games, like you said, being the producers and not the consumers. And many of our boys are very artistic. So we have the STEAM, which is not just STEM, but adding the A for the arts.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And within, we have programs now that we have a gaming track in computer science. So a gaming track where they code in Python and they use their designs and graphic. We get artificial intelligence, AR coming through, and showing them that they could design something on paper in 2D, and it could be uploaded to the computer, and you can have your background of animation and being able to create your own game. Those things are lucrative. They're really paying huge in a lot of these technology companies. But exposing my males, many of them, to that, they were some of my top students when it came to beautiful, creative designs on the web. And I mean, so those are the things I want to tap into after my PhD program, with programs that support that, and showing them that you get what it takes. We just need to bring it out.
Right. It definitely needs to be cultivated. For sure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
In our urban community,
Yeah.
particularly in our
Absolutely.
inner cities.
What direction do you think, in light of where we are currently, what direction do you think the educational system is going to go? Uh, you hear on the news people who want the children, the students and teachers back in the classroom, and that there's going to always be a debate about that,
Yeah.
depending on which end of the spectrum you're on, in terms of whether or not you're the parent who has to work or the teacher who's concerned about their health and safety. But what direction do you think we're going to end up going? Do you think that we'll get back to, do you think we'll go back to the traditional methods of teaching, or now that technology has had to be integrated,
Yeah.
once we eventually go back into being in the physical school building, do you think that there's going to be a continued push to integrate more technology in the day-to-day instruction?
I definitely believe that it's going to be a while before we go back to full in-person every day, like we've been accustomed to.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely going to take a while. Looking at the science, hopefully it won't, but technology and the things, it's here to stay, and they're moving more and more to get away from it. It's gonna be hard to get away from it. You have to adapt to it. Artificial intelligence is huge now. A lot of, you see a lot of biometric things coming up, even with taking temperatures. We walk in a building, you put your face in there. So technology and the things that have it's here to stay. So I believe you know, whatever stance you're on, whether you're for it or whether you're against it, you definitely got to accept it.
Yeah, you got to get with the program because I was just away for a few days, and you're right. You know, I was thinking about when you said that, I checked into the hotel and there was the scanner for my temperature check. And I'm like, wow, you know, although I'm sure it existed previously, but even when I think about like where we are at this point, and I think about some of the movies, like I'm not a big
Yeah.
sci-fi person, but then
Yep.
you're like, wow, this was already written, you know.
That it's funny you said. I was just talking about that yesterday.
Mhm.
How I'm like, it seemed like I've seen this in a movie.
Yeah.
You know, even with basketball games and having the fans in the stands and the virtual, it's really like, wait a minute, what movie was this on? You know,
Mm-hmm.
um,
Yeah, and
how quickly it was implemented
it was implemented and how quickly we were able to adapt
to,
to a certain degree, even though, you know, you have
yeah,
a certain segment of population that doesn't, but you know, when you think about you're going out now with your face mask, you would never think about going out of the house to go to the store. You know, when I think about Michael Jackson, for example, when he walked around with the mask on his face, people
yeah,
talked about him, said that there was something wrong, and here now
all of us.
are doing the same thing
That
because
is so true.
you know, we've been told that we have to do this. So
Exactly.
whatever the I guess conspiracy theories or what have you, whatever anyone may think about what's going on, the fact remains it's been 6 months really since we've been, well, 9 months technically, if you want to go back to the beginning of the year, but 6 months in terms of
Mm-hmm.
where it's, you know, lockdown, what have you, and how quickly things have changed with
Yes.
how we operate day to day.
Yes.
So I think you're right. Like we're all going to have to get on board and catch up because
It's not slowing down.
no, if
It's,
anything, it's like rapidly and you know increasing so rapidly that it may be even hard to keep up. And I think that's where we have to be mindful as far as, you know, with our children, as far as that's concerned, and the academics and what they're exposed to, which is so hard when there's already um, inequities within
yeah.
education. And you know, now
Yes.
it's gonna be greater, unfortunately.
Exactly. It
So
is.
we didn't get a chance to talk about, you did mention, and I didn't say this in the intro, you are a mom of three, but they're adults, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, did
Mm-hmm.
all of your children in some way, shape, or form go into any remnants of the STEM field? I know your daughter
Mm-hmm.
is.
So yeah. So the oldest, he's in management information systems, and my daughter is uh, computer science, like an engineer,
Mhm,
from a major company.
mhm.
And then my youngest is engineering and technology major in the
Oh,
university.
there you go. So you're
So
very influential.
yes, I did. I laid it out for him, and I'm like, okay, like I did. I showed him, and if that's what you choose to do, then these are the things. So
Well, I need you to, we're going to have to set up a Zoom call so that you can have a conversation. And you know, now I will say full transparency, and this is probably bad. Now I'm pushing, and I've always pushed STEM with Kamal. I've exposed all three of them. You know, like you
yes,
said, all three were in the Seek camp that was sponsored through NSBE.
mm-hmm.
So
And
all of
people's
them,
gas.
yep,
Mm-hmm.
all of them had the exposure. And then for the girls, I did put them in Girls in Science.
Mm-hmm.
That was facilitated through, there were three colleges. One was Malcolm X, Olive Harvey, and then University of St. Francis. So
Mm,
exposed them
very good. Yep.
to that. Um, but there's that one child that I'm pushing to go into the field because I see something in him. I mean, I've always known him to like try to fix stuff, or tinker around
Mm.
with, something that's computer related if it's at PS4.
Yeah.
you know, looking,
Right.
researching and that sort of thing. So I want him, I don't know. I've been accused of the whole gender bias by my daughters.
Mm.
But I just think it's important for him to go into that field. And not that I don't think it's as important for the girls to go into it, but I think it's probably because I, during the time when they were younger, I did see, it seemed to me that there was such a push for girls to go into the field. And I kind of felt like as a parent, like I don't see anything that's
Right.
specifically related to boys.
Exactly. And
So,
I think by being a responsive parent, that's our job um, as a parent to see gifts and talents in our kids,
mm-hmm,
and we have some inkling about what their strengths are in certain areas. So I don't see any problem with as parents. It's just, of course, some parents can be overbearing with it, but educating our kids and showing them the options many times because they don't, I found myself, my husband and I both found ourselves being a high school counselor for our students, for
mm-hmm,
our kids.
yeah,
And the same thing,
yeah,
sitting down with them. Okay, like I said, okay, what you're going to take next year? And you do that all the time with your kids. And you was just
yeah,
saying, when we talked before, like, okay, I need him to take this geometry course. This is what I need him.
right,
So being the high school counselor, don't just leave it up to the school. That's
absolutely,
huge. Yep, which you have been ever since I know you when you had kids, always that parent that was, okay, this is the way I want my children to go, and encourage them in that way. That's our job. And I think many times the world sometimes look at it like, oh, you're being an overbearing parent. Let them just go and do what they feel they need to do to a certain extent. That's my opinion.
right. And I will say that for me, part of the reason why I am that way is because I feel like I saw firsthand growing up actually, because I went to the neighborhood public school, the elementary school, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I just remember um, what I was exposed to simply because I had parents who came up to the school who were involved. And that, even at that young of an age, I don't know, that stood out to me. So I know that when it
Yes.
was time for, because I think the neighborhood elementary school, which was A. Philip Randolph, it went up to 8th grade,
Mm-hmm.
but I was in the advanced reading class. So I would do the pullout. I was always in the gifted classes. And so when there was a point in 6th grade where teachers apparently were submitting recommendations to be tested to get into Morgan Park, Kenwood, or Whitney Young.
Mm-hmm.
I believe wholeheartedly that I would not have been recommended to take that test had it not been for my parents just having a presence,
Yes.
being at parent teacher conferences, asking the right type of questions or what have
Yes. Huge.
you. And that stood out for me. And so with my own children, I see the very same thing. So while sometimes they may feel like I'm being overbearing, and I am their high
Mm-hmm.
school counselor. They have a high school counselor. However,
Exactly.
I counsel too.
Exactly.
and they will say to me, and it's amazing, like you say, you got to know where your children are in terms of what their interests are, and you know where they are in certain point. My son will make comments like, well, I didn't have a choice. you told me I had to do
Mhm.
Project Lead the Way. Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Whereas my daughter, his twin sister, she's
Mhm.
like, okay, let's map out this schedule. So do you think I should take this class?
Mm.
So her thinking of it, she doesn't look at it as me telling her what to do. She's
Exactly.
looking at it like, you work in higher ed,
You
you
know,
did
mom.
this, that, and the other, you know.
Right. And
So,
that's yep.
yeah.
That we're all different, you
Yeah, we're
know?
all different, but they are now, though, as much as they've tried to give me grief in some way or form,
Mhm.
they will acknowledge that they do see the difference with me being
Difference.
involved, or at least having some type of presence. Um,
Huge.
yeah, but I still
Huge.
tell them, you gotta advocate for yourself. Like I always leave them with, you gotta advocate for yourself. You gotta learn how to do things on your own. I'll show you,
Yes.
um, but I'm not gonna always be around. And I think that's important as parents. Um, you've got to be a partner with your child's teacher, or with folks who are running the education
Exactly.
system. Like, you've got to be, it's supposed to be, it should be a partnership. You got
Yeah.
to work together. um and so I try to tell them, like, you got to learn how to do
To
this.
advocate.
Yeah, to
Mhm.
advocate, because nobody's going to do it for you. Nobody's going to just hand you something. You
Right.
still, and you got to speak up.
Huge. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's definitely true. Because um I'm always, within the school system in the area that I work, which is where we grew up in Inglewood.
Hmm.
I encourage our parents. You don't you don't have to have this or that. You can go up to your child's school and go up and advocate for your children and be there. It doesn't matter who you are, what you've been through, how much money you have. It None of that matters.
Right.
You stand up and have a voice for your children, no matter what. And
Absolutely.
to be involved, like you said, as a partner in your child's education. I love to see parents, they may, just whatever they're going through, but they make sure that they're up there, or they make sure they're calling the teacher, or okay, wait a minute, what needs to be done, what homework needs to, so you don't have to. And I think a lot of times many of our parents, especially at, where we grew up, uh, get discouraged, like, oh, I can't call a school, or I can't check, yes you can.
Hmm.
Yes you can. You can be an active partner for your child in their education. It does not matter anything about who you are, what you've been through. I'm constantly telling my parents that you are the biggest hero of all.
Right. Right.
You're the biggest hero of all. And no matter, as a teacher, as a principal, whoever, the parent has the number one say so and influence, one of the huge influences in that child's life.
Absolutely.
So,
And I didn't ask you, how do you feel being back, in the community, working in the community in which, we grew up in?
oh, it's like full circle.
Hmm.
And I'll tell you this, it just, it's just, it's everything just lined up. I mean, faith, everything just lined me up right back where I'm needed.
That's
And
all.
I've worked in different areas, but yeah.
And now this is high school too, right?
Yep.
So yeah, so that's perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited about your future, especially when it's
Thank
time for you
you.
to defend your dissertation and cross over to Dr. Henderson.
I know. You've been a huge influence. I have to say, Dr. Muhammad um, is phenomenal.
Oh,
Phenomenal. Anytime I need her, anytime I need professional career advice, and she's the huge reason where I'm at within the field I'm in. Let's say that. Um, without telling too much.
That's right.
Exactly. So I'm just so proud, so proud. And she kind of didn't say, but I've been, and I don't want to kind of tell my age or anything, but I've been knowing her before she even got here. So she was in the stomach.
That's right. Yes. I'm the little sister of the
So
group, right?
yeah, so I am so, so, so proud of her. She was so focused all through. Uh, just focused. You knew what you wanted at a very young age, and what you wanted and what you needed to get there. And your parents was right there along the way to. I just remembering like I'm going to do this, and she had things planned out, and this is how, and I'm going to. Yep, and everything just
Well,
manifested.
you know, that whole planning thing now in the second trimester of my life is what I'm going to call it. Now I'm like not trying to plan everything. I still have, you know, plans,
Right, right.
but yeah,
But yeah, you pretty much what you wrote, your vision and things of how you're gonna have to do a whole podcast on that.
I guess maybe I should. I don't want to talk to myself though. That's what I feel like. I'll be talking to myself, but maybe I will.
Maybe like surround yourself with those who have did the same,
Yeah,
have wrote their vision down, made it plain,
and we can talk
things
about it.
and things lined up.
But I remember, you know, you all were focused. You know, your mama didn't play. I just remember because you all didn't go to school with us either. I mean, I know that there's an age difference between us,
Mm-hmm.
but it was still almost like, you know, you were there in the neighborhood, but you had a different outlet because of where you went to school. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I just kind of remember seeing you all as, you know, coming home with your books in your uniform, going in the house and doing your work. I mean, you all still socialized and came outside, but you all had to be about your business.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it was always, from what I saw, academics first. And then I remember because your sister is in the STEM field too, because she's a chemist.
Exactly.
So that, I mean, even that's huge as well. So I mean, I think that we have definitely demonstrated with all of the different narratives that are shared about Inglewood. And even when we were growing up, though, Inglewood wasn't what it is now.
Yeah.
I mean, we were there during the transition, but we also grew up during a time where um, all of the parents in the neighborhood, they could tell you
Yes.
what to do. They could tell you don't do XYZ. So it was definitely that village, that community,
It was. It
you know.
was.
So, but I think that many of us who grew up on 71st Place, you know,
Mm-hmm.
we have done all right for ourselves. So
Yeah.
um I like to be able to tell those stories as well. So
Exactly. And there's a lot of revitalization going on, which you are very much
yeah,
know about, and you're very, Dr. Muhammad is very well connected with that. So it's a lot of beautiful things happening
right.
um, across Inglewood. It's amazing,
That's
all
right.
the things that's being built and the strong, yeah, very impressive.
Well, do you have any closing remarks, advice, or anything that you'd like to leave the audience with?
Hmm. Um, I would, first of all, thank you so much for allowing me to just be a part of your podcast. I'm, of course, it's family, we just exuberantly excited. And it's such classiness. And so
Yeah,
keep up the great work.
thank you.
So as far as the audience, just really encourage, especially minorities, our Black and Brown people, that the sky is definitely not the limit. There's so much within STEM and STEAM that has yet to be explored. We're one of the least represented communities represented in STEM. And it's not because at all of the lack of ability, it's because of the lack of exposure. So invest, look at your community colleges, look at the certificate programs, include something that has some sort of technology component in it, whatever field, whatever area you choose to go into, or whatever area you're in now, and you say, oh, your company is offering for you to take, I don't know, maybe a Microsoft class, learn how to do spreadsheets, or learn how to do some type of, software. Just don't ignore it, because it's here to stay. It's not going anywhere.
That's definitely good advice. I appreciate that. I would like to actually invite you to come back onto the podcast, and maybe I would love to do actually kind of a roundtable discussion as well, like with some other folks who are working in the field, and maybe we could talk about some more, because this was like an overview. So even if we look at some specific areas this is my formal invitation to ask you to come back again.
No, definitely. That's a no-brainer, of course.
But I thank you so very much for joining me today on this episode of Light It Up. And for my listening and viewing audience, I hope you enjoyed today's segment with Mrs. Tasha Henderson, and hope to have you tune in again next week. And in the meantime, and in between time, don't forget to always light it up and shine bright like a diamond.
Thanks for joining me this week on Light It Up. Make sure you visit my website at www.lightituppodcast.com or www.aginahmuhammad.com. You can also find me on social media using the handle @LightItUpPodcast. If you like what you've heard, please be sure to hit the subscribe button so you'll never miss a show. While you're at it, I'd appreciate a rating on iTunes, or you can simply tell a friend about the show. Be sure to tune in every Tuesday for a new episode. Until next time, light it up and shine bright like a diamond.